What's going on, family? It's your brother Lawrence here with another episode of Watch God Work. We get the unique pleasure in every episode to speak with a brother or sister who's doing exceptionally in every field of human endeavor and business and culture and civic leadership, society, all those things, and they get to share their God story, the ways in which God is moving in their life and moving in their work, and today is no different. I have to laugh because I think that's just fitting when I think about this sister and I think about just what she is doing and just the momentum behind her. But I think the truth is that God is behind her and in front of her and all that she's doing. I wanted to welcome my sister, our sister, Beverly Adaeze. What's going on, sis?
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for having me on your show. This is awesome.
Oh man, yo. So these are one of those things where I just want to use every piece of real estate, because even the way she started, people like, nah, man, where that energy? Keep that energy, man. Of the work she's been doing. But I just want to start from the very beginning. I want to start from the very beginning. I think it's even pre-Houston. There's probably a story behind that. But just who is Beverly Adaeze? Who are you?
First, I'm a hairstylist, and I'm a businesswoman, and I consider myself a social media personality now, and a content creator. So I'm a lover of people. I'm a lover of dogs. I'm a lover of plantain, and I just love making the most out of life. So that is who I am in a nutshell.
Yo, you said love of plantain. You're gonna get love. We strong. We strong in these streets, man. Properly cut plantain though. But
I tell people, I'm like, well, God had me in mind when He made plantain. It was me. He was thinking of me. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, you cut me, I'm gonna bleed plantain. So I definitely feel it and hear that. But what's interesting about your story? I mean, I think you've been able to speak to a number of different hats that you wear, and I think one of the things, particularly when people think of Nigerian children or those from the diaspora, when we think of the arts, sometimes it's one of those things that I was like, how'd you survive? Because the thinking is that typically there's a path. It's like your career doesn't exist unless you're a doctor, lawyer, such and such. What was this? How was your creativity cultivated in an environment where I think many people would assume that you were given kind of 2 to 3 options, and if you did not, you were on the streets?
Oh, I guess I'll start with me, like being a hairstylist. It's always been something that I did, and so when I got to college, even in undergrad, I was kind of doing it, little by little. I never thought I would even own my own business, own my own salon. And I think it was right before my senior year, right before graduating, I studied abroad in Spain. And I think just being away for that short amount of time, not really having my parents in my ears, I was like, you know what? I got a chance to just get closer to God. And I was just like, you know what, I'm going to go for it, and I'm going to do it. And so when I came back, I started doing that, and my parents gave me some pushback. But, I ended up just succeeding, and, of course they love that. And then now shifting to comedy, I was just like, my intention actually was to I never intended to be an influencer, social media commentator. It's just something I just always enjoyed doing. And so I just put one post out there, and it stuck, and I just kept on doing it. And so even now when I show my parents, African parents, they don't show emotion. They're like, oh, okay, it's mine. Okay. But, they'll send it to their friends and stuff. And, I'll tell my mom, I was like, oh, my video got featured on the news. She was like, okay, glory be to God. We thank God, no emotion, but they're proud. You just have to kind of, like, okay, she's happy, So I think they see the work that I'm putting in different areas of my life, and they're proud. They just, it's not until I buy them that kind of house, that's when they'll tell me that they're proud of me. So I take what I can, but I'll manage it. I'll manage it like that.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like, that's when it becomes real. We know it's love. It's like, they love you. It's all good. Don't worry. But I think what's interesting, it's like, there has to be a genesis before this, right? Not to say that you were out in Spain and you were just kind of like a voila and you had your moment, right? But
Mm-hmm.
what were some of the kind of the looking back and where you saw that, wow, I'm funny,
Mm,
wow, I'm this, or what
man.
what started to connect the dots? And then
Mm-hmm.
obviously I want to talk about kind of the hair coloring a little bit more deeply, because even then, when did you start to connect the dots on that as
Mm,
on these things as gifts
yeah.
to say maybe I should think about this?
Yeah. So I don't. I really honestly didn't start thinking about this until maybe like a few months ago. Somebody actually tagged me. I don't know if you're ever in like chemistry class, and they're always like there's this meme that said all the comedians started at this table or something like that. It was the people that kind of act the clown,
Hmm.
and somebody sent that to me, and I was just like, man, I never thought about that. I was just talking. And so
Hmm.
I look back and I'm like, well, I've always had this, witty humor, but I never thought twice about it. And so that's that. And with hair, it's just I've just always been kind of good at that. Like I pick it up pretty quickly and I've always been creative. So now that I look back, I'm like, there's been little tidbits, little signs. And so yes, sir.
It's curious. I think people can understand that because people have had moments where they don't necessarily know if there was just one moment, but it was somewhat of a crescendo thing to say, okay, I'm
Yeah.
now in a space where I'm just willing to do that. Was it from a place of, did you feel just when you're in Spain, like what was your mindset happening then? Was it just saying like, there's more to life, I just want to do more than this?
Mm,
Was it just a tension
yeah.
of like, I got to do more, I need to hustle? Like, what was the main driver, if you could say? Because you summarized the moment, but in some sense, like what drove you wanting to
Hmm.
create more when you already had a lot on your plate?
It was a friend of mine.
Hmm.
So before I went to Spain, she told me, she was just like, I know that you're going for this, medical path and all this stuff. But she was like, I don't know. That's not really you. Like
Mm.
on your free time, you're not looking up medical stuff. Like I see you more, you're looking in the beauty arena, you're YouTubing things, you're looking at ways to be more creative in that area. And she was just like, I don't know. And so when she said that, I took that with me to Spain
Mm.
and I just kind of allowed that to marinate. And so that's when I was just like, you know what? She's right, and just thinking about the medical path, and it was just so stressful. Like my mind couldn't even, I just, it was a lot for me,
Mm.
and so once I let that go, it was just like cold water just poured on me. So,
I think it's going to be freeing for
yeah.
people to hear. One, I think you hear the importance of friendships and people speaking truth into
Yeah.
your life. And I think particularly in the times that we're
Hmm.
living in, even though this is evergreen, I think people recognize the importance of people who call. Like it's good to get an incoming call too,
Mm,
right? For people to check on you as
yeah,
opposed to going up.
it's
But
true.
but also like just you see how singular that was. Like if she had not put the mirror back on you to say
Mm,
that's not how I see you, would you have, you
yeah.
know, to this point? And
Mm,
I think what's interesting. I mean, for me as the one who was kind of like pre med myself, and I was just like, this is not the truth, right? Like
yeah.
I could not do the work.
Yeah. That organic chemistry is no
It
joke.
was like, this is not for the
It's not
birds, and I
something
ain't trying to
small.
do these little figures and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, but I want to
Yeah.
hold that on one hand, because I'll bring us back to this place of kind of how you went a little bit forward more on the entrepreneurship piece. But even God, I think sometimes people, when on the outside, when they think about God, particularly if you one are lived in the South, right?
Mm-hmm.
Two, Nigerian, it's almost like we have kind of like Christ in culture. But is it really, when did like
Mm-hmm.
Christ become like, when did God become real? When you're like, you know what? I need, like, God, y'all real, not just because I need to do this, but when did it become real to you? And then how did you start to connect it? Was that place of faith to say, you know what, God, there's got to be something here, and I need to be honest, and you're going to take care of me? Like, number one, where's the genesis of God in your life when it became real, not necessarily culture? And then two, how did it start to connect to the things
Yeah.
you were doing?
God became real at 19.
Mm,
I was 19 years old. I was in college and I was doing just what college kids do.
mm,
I felt like, oh, I have my freedom. I'm free now, no more strict parents. And then you get to a point where it's just like, that's not fulfilling. I thought it would be fulfilling, but now I'm realizing that there's more.
mm,
And even then, I could look back in situations. I mean, my freshman year in college, I almost got arrested,
mm,
and even then, God was still real then, and it wasn't until a year after that I surrendered, and so from then on, just cultivating that relationship and just getting serious about my walk with God, to the point where, of course, you go through that season of loneliness, where it's just you and God, and you're saying no to certain things, and you're just like, is this it? But then, then God brings the right people into your life, and just things start. Things are not perfect, but then when you just being closer to God, I started to want to please God. I wanted to make God smile, and I wanted to say no to the things that I knew weren't making God happy, and just walk on this path. And so I realized that, okay, although my parents are coming from a loving perspective, they're coming from an angle, they love me, but a lot of their thinking and the way that they're doing things is just based on tradition and what they know best, and so that's that tough part, because African parents don't want to hear it. Like, yes is yes, you're doing it, they don't want to hear it. But God has been faithful.
I appreciate you sharing this, because I think there's a space that I think people could relate to, that regardless of whether or not you have the diaspora Nigerian parents or not. But what I also have here, this notion, I think that's just something to sit with, which is I just want to make God smile. And I think the reality for people who have discovered you, let's say discovered you and gotten to know you over the past 2 years. I mean, I was even looking, and I was just like, your YouTube game, I was just like, this is 2019. Like, I'm like, this thing is fresh. This is 2 years young.
I need to do better.
Right? But I'm just saying, like, 2 years, and now, which I'm not even worried about that. That's going. But I'm just like, this is 2 years young. This is all relatively early. But there's been a clear an understanding to say, God, I want to make you smile, and through that, you've been making the world smile. And so I kind of want to push, because my brain is just like, sometimes when I see your post, and I think people relate to, I was like, I need to report her. Like, I'm like, where does from the genesis of Mama Agnes and Kechi, all the, so clearly we know in African children, we're like, there's somebody in this, but like from the first personality, when you started to create these people, where did it come from? Was it like, okay, this is amalgamation? Where did it come from? And then two, what does your actual exercise with this look like? Because I think for me, studying comedy for a while, just loving, admiring it, like it's a profession of reps, and you're in this kind of social media time where you're creating. So number one, where's the genesis of these personalities? And number two, what does your rhythm around your craft look like, especially when you're managing a business? You got all these things. How do you work on your craft?
It's stressful. So I think my first video that I actually put on Instagram was like, like a lotion video or whatever. And then after that, I decided, I was like, I want to do kind of like a PSA, talking about body odor. And I was like, okay, I'm good at the African mom thing, so I need a name that is kind of stereotypical. Agnes is actually my dad's mom's name, and then I picked Okonkwo because I feel like that's like an Igbo, traditional Igbo name, and so that's where that comes from. And then I think just as I started doing more skits, I'm like, okay, I need an arch enemy. They always think that's everybody's a witch, so I need my one Kichi, and so you just kind of add on as you go. As far as how everything kind of comes to life, I usually like to write it down. So I'll write the script down, and a lot of times I just get my ideas. Sometimes it's just random, and I just, I'm like, oh, that'll be a lot of it actually is inspired by my mom. So my mom will say one thing, and I'm like, that'll just trigger something. I'm like, well, let me write that down. And some things are actually influenced by social media. So if there's like a viral post or like a challenge, I'm like, okay, how can I put my own little spin on this? And so I'll write it down, and I'll act out one portion and just, be as dramatic as possible, but still natural. I don't like when I see when things are too forced. I'm like, okay, how can I channel my mom, my auntie, and my grandma all in one? And then I'll do that. And then just setting time aside. So usually on my off days, I'll have one day that I'm like, I just rest. That's my day. Don't disturb me. And then I'll have a day where I just kind of act it out. And honestly, that stuff is work. It's not really the acting out that's the hard part. It's the editing. And I'm still trying to figure it out, actually. So
you're like, y'all listening, please.
hmm Yeah, well, actually, I'm moving into a season of full content creation.
Mm.
So I'm letting go of my baby, my business, and then I'm moving to a new season of just doing it full time while pursuing another dream.
Mm.
So yes, so more content is going to be on the web. But I better give me time. Let me stress.
We believe, right? And I think that was partly,
Yeah.
I'm grateful that you brought that up, because I think, for me, is around what does that look like. And I think even as you talk about writing, I think people think about Beautiful Mind, they think of Jay, they think of so many creatives that come to mind around their process. What's golden is the process.
Mm,
I'm curious with, again, even as these things are shifting and you're reorienting your time, what's your process with God?
right.
Like, so for you, it's saying like, okay, I need my
Mm,
day, I need my rest, I need to write down. But are you similarly like a journal person? Like, I need to journal, I need to tell God I'm upset, I need to do that, or I need to be silent.
yeah.
What is your thing with God? Because night African parents, they be sitting there cleaning and singing songs you don't know, like around God. Like,
hmm
what is how do you
Yeah.
connect with God?
I just started trying, being more intentional with journaling
Mm.
because sometimes I'll go like months without doing it, but I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, I need to. I'm in a season where I need to journal down my thoughts so I can look back and see, okay, what was I afraid of? How did I overcome this fear? So journaling is one. Talking to God in the car
Mhm.
is another one. Just when I'm on my way to work and just letting God know, all right, I'm tired, but let's do
Mhm.
this. And then also listening to there's this app I have called Dwell, and I'll just listen to the audio Bible just as I do whatever I need to do. And then also podcasts too,
Mhm.
like certain podcasts, and just really making sure that I'm carving out time for God and I'm not allowing content to take so much of my time that I'm not spending time with God.
Mm.
And also making sure that was even with social media, um, that if I need to take 2 weeks, I don't need to report to anybody. I don't need to say, "Hey guys, I'm about to take 2 weeks." No, I take my 2 weeks. I just unplug and then I spend time with God. And I feel like I need to do that every so often, just to kind of detox,
Mm.
you know,
Mm.
and reset.
Mm. I love that you're there, because I think what I've noticed in your content, and I think it seems like there's also this social commentary, meaning, what I
Mm-hmm.
appreciate is, you talk about, kind of like the overwork auntie, right? You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean, like
Ah,
like, I'm saying, the overwork, but there's social commentary in it around roles
mm-hmm.
and sisters, and essentially carrying so much. There's a view even when their
Yeah.
challenges would come out, and how you do your comedy and where the boundary lines of your comedy go. For you, is that intentional? I think one will make an assumption. Is that intentional? And is that something where you're saying, I'm seeing this thing pick up, but I need to kind of really I have to recognize that I have responsibility. Like, how do you process the type of content you put out, right? And
Mm-hmm.
and the things that you're saying in these times.
So yes, it is intentional. And a lot of times it's really what I'm learning.
Hmm.
I feel like, okay, because when it comes to overworking myself and being that independent woman, don't need no, I got out of that 2020. 2020 showed me Pepe. I said, I'm not living like this anymore. There's no way. Like, there's no, you know, let me tell you, I think about how, when I was doing my salon suite, I didn't want to ask for help. I was carrying ladder from Home Depot into the thing, bumping, painting. Who told me to paint? I even ended up having to put wallpaper over it, like just not asking for help. And I'm just like, okay, this is not the kind of life I want to live. And so just really realizing that, wow, I'm not built for hard labor. Let me find a way to work to work smarter and not harder. But then it caused me to think about, our aunties and our grandmas and how they don't there's no self-care
Mm.
really. Even when they're stressed, it's almost like sometimes they take pride in being overwhelmed because then they can use that against some of us. And so, and I tell people my temperament is more like my dad's. my dad's like, please, I will not come and kill myself. If I need to rest, I will rest. And so I take after that, and I'm my goal is to encourage women to see that you don't get an award for being the most overworked female.
Mm.
You don't, you know, and that's just not that's not a good life. I want to be looking decent at every age and every stage. So let me start now. You know. So
Yeah, I appreciate it because I do think it's subtle, but I also think the medium is really, I think people talk about kind of like the comedy being a bomb, right? I think in a time of so much
mm,
suffering, how much healing that people could find joy, it's resistance in a time like
right.
this. But also when there's difficult topics, people talk about how the importance of comedy sometimes, right? Even though it's not intentional, you're just speaking, you're just being yourself.
Right.
And I remember I
Right.
think you did a commentary about a lady, and she was kind of like, "What do you do for a living?" She was like, "I'm a wife." you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
but you broke down the commentary, and I think in a way, and there's a conversation with a sister Chastity, and she talks about so much about God's order, the notion of being able to speak and see it in the view of God's care. That God wants us to
Exactly.
rest. That his yoke is light, meaning what life is not going to be any less difficult, but there is
Right.
a care and a provision of care that God puts in the relationships around us, and also the order and institution that He creates for us. And I do think that's particularly powerful. I mean, when you make when you make the commentary, I mean, have you felt like you got pushed back or things, or people like just stay on the funny stuff? What has been that type of dynamic?
Oh yes. I think the one I did about the Wanna Gonna girl, and her saying, "Hey, I'm gonna pick him up. I'm gonna take him out. I'm gonna pay for his food and do all this." And oh yeah, some guy was not having it. He went and he posted it on a Facebook group. Somebody actually sent me the link, and he was just going in. And I said, "I better go there. Don't even bother myself with that. Just your business." But even with the whole self-care thing, I do realize that it's almost like women, especially women of color, where we're taught, oh, independent women don't need a man. Sometimes they'll even say, men are trash, be yourself, be independent. But then now it's almost like this shift back to, embracing our femininity and realizing that you're not built to do all of this on your own, and that's in the strong independent woman, that's for the birds, and a lot of that is trauma,
Mm.
feeling like I don't want to ask, I don't want him to feel like I need him, I don't want to, what I'm saying, I think there's some trauma behind that too. And so realizing that, okay, I don't have to do all this, when it's time to take down all my stuff, I'm calling my guy friends, hey, can you help me out, and a lot of times they love that, they love a chance to, show that they're masculine. Okay, show it, please hurry up, I'm taking it down.
I think it is. I do, but I do think it's freeing what you're saying, and I do think, especially as
Mhm.
you're kind of talking about, these aren't revelation, these are things that you're understanding and learning for yourself.
Right.
There's a power in you saying it from the platform that you're in and on. I'm
Hmm.
curious now when you think about just creatively, right? Coming out of a pandemic,
Okay.
MC was something that kind of was early. We seen you with the pamphlets, the green, MC pamphlets from years
Yeah.
ago. But where do you feel that God is calling you in this season in terms of spending more of your time? If it's just like, okay, content creation, or what, Lord, I want to create a special. I want to do these things. Like, where do you see God's hands driving you in this next season of your gifting?
Definitely content creation for sure. And just sharing my story. And when you mentioned YouTube, I felt convicted because I need to do better. So this way, they're not just talking to Mama Agnes, they're not just hearing Mama Agnes, but they're actually hearing, me being transparent and letting people know, hey, this is what I'm going through. This is me, So that's where I see everything kind of shifting. And then just also working on a major goal that I have, and simplifying my life
Mm,
and living like a minimalist.
mm,
And so making sure that, because right now I have a lot of things going on, and I don't take pride in being a busybody. I want to be productive, I want to put out good work, but I just don't want to be trying to do a hundred things at one time.
mhm.
So with me letting go of my business, that's going to simplify my life so that I can focus on just content creation and then just working on that goal. And that's it.
Mm.
Two things. That's it. Don't ask for nothing else. Just those two things.
As you're kind of letting these things go, what are you saying to God, and when you saying back, and what would you say to someone who's in a similar season of, okay, I'm afraid to let go. I think I'm supposed to spend time here. I'm not sure. What does that look like for you?
it's scary to let go of, what I know so well and what I know. Hey, I know this is going to bring this amount of income in. I know exactly what I'm getting from, my business. This is my comfort zone. So now that I'm going into this new season, I'm just like, God, I'm just going to trust that you're going to, you're going to make ends meet. And then also to help me to buy into the dream that I believe you've instilled in me, and to not be so fearful, you know? And if I'm going to do this thing, let me do it 100%, and embrace the journey, and, not feel like I have to be a perfectionist. Let me just progress and get better and better, So that's my prayer, to buy into what I believe he's put in me.
Buying into the dream. I think people think about just even Moses and God's calling on him, and how much trepidation and how much just minimization he was saying is like, God chose you. And so similarly, what I hear you saying is, I'm going to buy into God choosing me. I'm going to buy into the fact that God placed this vision in my life. I'm going to buy into the fact that I am here and that I have a unique opportunity at such a time like this. And I do believe it. I think this is why I've been so excited about this conversation, is because beyond just the fact that you're doing, this is service. I think people fully understand the importance of creatives in this time. I think people fully appreciate more, like sitting on your Netflix. Creatives created that. Sitting on your TikTok and creatives created that.
Yeah.
People will understand it even more. But I think, to your point, in this season, just really buying into what God is doing and how important that is. I'm curious about this. Around a lot of times, usually people feel this in the content space, pigeonholed, right? Like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be pigeonholed. Oh my gosh, or the idea of like, oh, I don't, am I in a position where, because God has put a vision on me, where I'm bringing people to me as opposed to me going out? For example, there's a Toni Morrison, I think, clip where she's talking about, she's in this interview, and this person is talking about, like, how you become mainstream, essentially, kind of paraphrasing. And she's just like, I didn't become mainstream. Like, I brought people to me. I brought them into my world. And how do you think about that, just given the vision that God has kind of given you, to say, you know what, I'm not, quote unquote, pigeonholed, or it's not pigeonholed to be supplying the people that I believe understand me, versus trying to be something you're not. Like, how are you navigating that tension with God of say, okay, God, am I supposed to be out here? Right? Or where I am is where it is. And this is gonna be powerful and reach the world where I'm at. Like, how do you feel that tension of like, where I'm good where I'm at, I just need to keep doing this well, versus I need to get seen by somebody, quote unquote?
So like I said, my goal was, I didn't, if you would have told me a year ago that my social media platform would be what it is now, I would have been, I don't know. I would have never thought that it would get this far. And so when I saw that it started picking up traction, I'm just like, okay, God, what are you trying to do with this? My goal is really just to always just bring light to people's lives, right? It's not for, followers. It's not for, Tyler Perry, look at me. I'm content with what I do, but I know I want to get better. So I'm not begging for anybody to notice me. I'm not begging for me to be on anybody's platform or, hey, look at me. I just want to use my gift and put it out. And I believe that the right opportunities will come this way. So I'm not pushing anything. I'm not forcing anything. I even have, I'll have a few people that ask like, hey, how did you grow your following? I'm just like, just be yourself, I never look at the numbers. Don't obsess over the numbers, because you'll just go crazy. Even when you get 10K, 20K, you're not going to be satisfied, because you're going to look at this person and she has 100K or 200K. Just put it out, if you believe in your work, put it out there. If it's genuine, if you really want people to laugh and you feel like, you can do that, just put it out there and be genuine. I always say, don't force the funny. Because when you force the funny, people can tell. That's why I don't let anyone pressure me into putting out. They can be like, oh, okay, we need you to put out something next week. Oh, I need to laugh. I just thought, when I put it out is when I put it out. So I have things to do. I have a job. I'm not, I don't let anyone pressure me into doing anything, because also I have to correct people sometimes when they say this. They're like, "Oh, I follow your comedy page." I'm like, no, it's my personal page, but I just use comedy to share some of my experiences. And the reason I say that is because if I say that, oh, it's my comedy page, then you're gonna feel like everything I put out needs to be, oh, I need to laugh, I need to do this. And I'm just like, I think that can kind of put you in a box, and that puts a lot of pressure on a person. So I'm just like, this is my comedy page. I share a little bit of myself with the world. And, a lot of the times I will use comedy to do that. And so I just don't allow people to pressure me. I do what I can when I can, and I put it out there. And as long as it makes one person laugh, that's good for me.
I don't want people to miss this in what you said, because you say this very matter of fact, but I think people who see, you say it very matter of fact, your sense of security. That comes from a place of security to say, I don't need to do this. I don't need, and that seems completely opposite the dynamic, like to your point you made, when people on social media got to go, they're like, y'all, I'm going to be gone for about 7 days. You know what I'm saying? Pour one out for me. It's this kind of dynamic, right?
Not pour one out.
But for you, it just seems like you're very clear on who you are and what you're doing. And for you,
right.
Is it that resting in kind of your identity in God? Like, you say it like it's normal, but if you being honest, that's not a normal thing, So how does kind of your relationship with God allow you to be so anchored?
Well, I said, God, whoever likes me, they like me. They don't like me, they don't like me. That's their business. And then also, I've seen what social media can do to people, and just how they are so enamored by the numbers and the followers and the likes. And they just drive themselves crazy, feeling like, oh my gosh, I don't want to lose my followers. Let me be putting something out every day. And now you're just putting out trash because you're focused on quantity over quality. So even if I don't post for 2 weeks, when I post, it's gonna be good, because I took time to work on that. And so for me, I'm just like, God, this is your platform. Whatever I want to do it. Nobody's gonna dictate what I post on my social media. I post, one, because of my personal page, and two, because God has given me this gift and I want to help people. And I love laughter. I'm a lover of laughter. I want to make others laugh. But at the same time, I set my boundaries with social media and with people, because they will drive you crazy. And sometimes you realize how selfish we can be. In a sense that we think of ourselves, we want to laugh, we want to do this. We're not thinking about, this other person. A lot of people they think I'm a full-time content creator, and so they don't realize that, this girl has things to do. She doesn't have, it's not every day. So I set my boundaries, and whoever likes it, you can stay. If you don't like it, you go. That's your business. So either way, God is going to do what he's going to do regardless. So.
This is a word for people. I mean, I think there's so much richness in what you're saying, but I think there's the wisdom of not making God the algorithm and God Abba, right? Like the God is not the algorithm, and he's the one who's ultimately in control. And I think for your own health, but also for what you model, I think that's a powerful message to hear in these times when even amazing content creators feel the anxiety of, I need to do that. I need to, versus resting, that God is inviting us to rest, to say, I'm the God of this too.
Yeah.
I'm the God of this too.
There's also that pressure that a lot of people feel when you make one viral, like if you make a video that goes viral, and if you're not careful, you'll put this pressure on yourself as, okay, well, the next one has to be bigger, and the next one has to be bigger. Like, no, not everything is gonna stick like that one, and it's okay. As long as one person laughs and one person is blessed by that, that is okay. Everything is not going to be a viral hit. You may be lucky and get 2 back to back. But if you're putting it out from a genuine place, it's okay. You're not worried about, oh, if this is viral, this is not viral.
This has been a blessing to me. I'm just sitting with some of the things you're saying. I'm also laughing about the last one, the airline. The airline joy had me laughing. That hit the news.
Oh.
So, I'll never go on Spirit. But anyway, but
I mean, I never said I would. Some $20 tickets.
Exactly. You're like, please allow me on, please. It was a joke, right? Like, but but
they'll just make you fast. They'll make you fast. They won't feed you, but it's okay. Why you want, you know you're fasting, so just fly. They won't give you any water. Dry fast.
yo, Bev, I think one, both from a content creator standpoint, I think both for entrepreneur for sisters who are entrepreneurs, I think, and just I think brothers and sisters who are entrepreneurs, brothers sisters who are in the content space, I think your sense of security and your rootedness is, I think, something that I think will help free people up, and how that's rooted in God, and saying like if He wants it, He wants it. If He doesn't, He doesn't. And I think that's a word for people. I do want to kind of
Right.
give you these last things on the tail end of one. If for someone kind of in a similar position as you, who is kind of still figuring out kind of where they stand with God, they're like, I didn't grow up going to church. I didn't have a culture around it. I didn't have that moment you had. But I'm trying to just figure out what my next step is. And they were coming to you. They ain't talking to nobody else. They're like, I want to talk to Beverly because she gets my vibe. Like, what would you say to them if they're like, yo, like, what's my next step? I'm not sure about whether will fit in my life or not. What would you say to them?
Um, I would say, well, what is it that you enjoy doing? Like, what is it that if if you never got paid for it, you would just enjoy doing? And I would say just kind of focus on that, because a lot of times we don't think that we look at all these creatives and we think it's only singing and dancing. But we have our gifts, whether your gift is being a motivational speaker, whether it's, just different things. So I would say, what is that thing that you're passionate about? And just kind of focus on that. So now, are you talking in terms of kind of connecting them with God, or just
as well as connecting with God? Yep.
okay? I guess the way I do it, I don't force God on anyone, but all I can do is tell them what God has done for me, and the ways that He's moved in my life. So I would encourage them with that. Like, hey, this is what God did for me. Oh, how did you grow your social media? I don't know. God gave me a gift. I opened my mouth, I pressed record, and He did it. So I would just encourage them to kind of tie their gifts with God, and just, talk to God. Ask Him, hey, God, what is my purpose? What is my gift? What is that thing what do you want me to do on this earth? How do you want me to leave my mark on this earth? And then draw near to Him, and He'll draw near to you.
James 4. Yeah, I mean, and I think one, not forgetting that God will also speak to you through people like your story, that your friend was able to encourage you through your gifts. Sis, yo, what do you got?
Yeah.
How do people connect with you? Clearly, they probably already connect with you now. In
Yeah.
terms of what you got, what do you have coming up? How can people support this next level of Mama Agnes Okonkwo, right? You know what I'm saying? Of Beverly.
Yay. Glory be to God. You can find me on Instagram at Beverly Adaeze. That's Beverly Adaeze. And also on TikTok if you're a TikToker. And then my YouTube.
Yes,
which
please.
God help me, I'm gonna be listening. So I do have a podcast coming up, but things are not set in stone yet. So I'll reveal that later on. But Beverly Adaeze on almost all platforms. You can find me.
Beverly, you started this conversation talking about how you just want to make God smile. And as I said, you have been making God smile. There's nothing you can do to add or subtract for His love from you, but you've certainly been making God smile. And I think He's smiling back through the images of His image bearers, looking back and smiling when they see what you put out there. Thank you for serving and encouraging people during, I think, a very difficult time. We're grateful that so coincidentally that surgeons over these past 2 years have happened and overlapped during this time. We thank you for your faith and courage, the fact to step out from what's familiar. That's literally your livelihood, and you're dang good at it. And you're able to do that because you want more people to smile and you want to serve people. And so I think on behalf of brothers and sisters who will hear this, who have laughed to you, and who will see you, we believe that in faith. I just want to thank you, thank God for you. You're our sister, and we will support you in all that you do, as God has.
Yeah, thank you. Wow. Don't cry. Don't make me to be tearing up. But thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Thank you. And I'm so glad that you guys allowed me to be on your show. I really do appreciate it.
No problem at all. It's the least we could do. Many more to come.
Yeah.
God bless you, sister. Take care.
God bless you too.